Well, ladies and gentlemen, it has finally happened. We've hit the big time. You'd have never thunk it, looking at this wild-eyed West Virginia boy, thinking that, he'd be out there doing his thing in the world and, be hobnobbing and rubbing elbows with the big-time folk. But yes, it has finally happened. I have absolutely made it as the Front Porch Conservative. You don't believe me? Take a look. We are getting attention. And the proof of that, I'm now being followed by Christian Amanpour of CNN. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. I got this notification last night, and it is living proof that hard work does pay off. Now I got the mainstream media checking out what I'm doing. Crazy. Just crazy. Good morning, everybody out there in internet land. My name is Brian Trippett. I am your Front Porch Conservative. We are so glad to have you back for another session of Chatting on the Porch, a live stream that is dedicated to you, the hardworking folks out there in America. They're just trying to make it through their day, make it through their week, get to the weekend, take a deep breath and figure out, okay, did anything happen I need to pay attention to? Yes, it did. And yes, we're going to tell you about it. So we're so glad to have you here this morning, waiting for everybody to kind of filter into the room. We're going to see who's hanging out with us. It has been a wild week, as always, personally and for news and everything else. I got to start, as always, with some thank yous. First of all, to you, my audience. You guys are helping grow the channel. You guys are helping, make it bigger and better than anything I ever could have hoped or dreamed of. So for every new subscriber, for every comment, yes, indeed, the official bartender of the Front Porch has shown up. Good morning, my love. Mwah. Love you. Glad you are here this morning. For everybody who signed up as a new member, as a new subscriber, or dropped a comment, or even the comments that you're like, I'll say something make him mad. So glad to have you. Really. We are right now streaming on YouTube. We're streaming on Rumble. We're streaming on Twitter. And the Twitter, it has been spicy this week, and we'll get to all that. But I got to give some shout outs. First of all, to the audience, you guys are amazing. Second of all, I have to give a shout out to three men who, frankly, if it weren't for them, they wouldn't have made something that we did on Wednesday night as special as it was. Flagrant Triggers, Crash Mondo Jr., and Ruben Christopher Haynes joined me for a live stream coverage of Tucker Carlson's interview with former President Donald Trump. And I must admit, I don't know if it was done deliberately or how the circumstances came about, but the fact that they did a pre-recorded interview was so much better than us trying to cover it if it was live. I mean, I remember the last time Ruben and I did something like this was when Ron DeSantis made his announcement for president over Twitter. And that was just a nightmare. I mean, for any number of different reasons. But the fact that this was pre-recorded and all that made it a whole lot easier. Good morning to you, sir. My cup of tea is ready to lift in your general direction. Which, by the way, y'all may notice that I've got a new angle on this microphone that I use. I realize everybody's still coming into the room, but if you are hearing me better than maybe you've heard me before, could you kind of like give me a yay or a nay in chat? Because I'd really like to know if this is working. I'm always tinkering with it to try and make it better, realizing that I don't have, the best, made in the USA equipment. I'm dealing with cheap surplus Ukrainian leftovers. So, you kind of do what you can to make it work as best as possible. So if you're hearing me better in chat, let me know if this is coming through better, if it's clearer, if there's more volume behind it, etc. I'd kind of like to know. There's that. So I got to thank Flagrant Triggers, Crash, and Ruben. They were absolutely fantastic. Those guys were just good dudes. There's just no getting around it. We had a whole lot of fun. Oh, okay. So she says, okay, sounding great. Okay, this is good. It's good to know. I think I've got a better setup now until the day comes that I get some made in the USA by way of China equipment. It's always good to know that we're trying to make this thing better, and it is better. So that's always nice to know. But yeah, the three guys and I, we did a a live stream coverage of Trump's interview with Tucker Carlson, and we're going to get into some comments about that a little later. But I thought it was a really interesting interview for a lot of different reasons, and the fact that it's gotten the kind of widespread viewing that it has, I think is just amazing. So we'll get into some of that. I also need to thank Daniel Street, author and attorney from Louisiana, who's written several different books on fake news about Donald Trump. We had a live stream discussion Thursday night talking about the books, talking about his background, talking about the indictments, talking about Missouri v. Biden, which is working its way through the courts right now. Wonderful gentleman. If you're not following his work on Twitter, if you're not following him at his website, danielrstreet.com, check him out. He is a really, really good guy. And we had a wonderful conversation. So, yeah, a lot of things to be thankful for. And I am. I never lose sight of the fact that, this channel, be it on YouTube or on Rumble or Twitter or anywhere else, is nothing without you guys. And I'm not trying to be hokey. I'm just genuinely serious. I can sit here and stand on my head and, play a kazoo and, have my feet playing a drum while I'm standing on my head playing the kazoo. But if y'all don't watch, it doesn't go anywhere. So for everybody who watches, for everybody who leaves comments, for everybody who, shares videos and shares tweets around and everything else, 1,000 thank yous. You guys are totally, totally awesome. And, speaking of things to watch, there's a lot of news that happened this week. Excuse me one second here, folks. I'm trying to hit the cough button. That's better. At least it wasn't a belch. That could be even worse. Imagine right into the microphone. That'd be awful. But apparently Brittany Vente's made a thing out of that, so I don't know. It's kind of crazy. Lots of news to talk about, all kinds of different things. And I guess I want to start first with something that I touched on earlier in the week. I had done a video about the federal government's response to what's going on in Hawaii on the island of Maui. Now, for those of you who've been out there and maybe you just haven't had a chance really to keep up with what's going on, you may be aware there have been a series of a wildfire that happened on the island of Maui and destroyed a significant portion of the island. And when I say destroyed it, I mean the death toll right now. I think the last count I saw was like upwards of 400. There's still 1,000 people missing, and on it goes. And everybody remembers how the federal government responded after Hurricane Katrina. And some people have been wondering, is this Joe Biden's Katrina? Well, the way it's being handled is leaving themselves open for a lot of criticism, right or wrong. And we'll get into how they're responding. And it's the response, I think, that is frustrating people in Hawaii and opening the eyes of a lot of people in general to how inept the federal government is in situations like this. So that's where we're going to start this morning. I want to start with how the president was received when he visited Maui. Now, hang on one second. Lubricate the old vocal cords. So the president, in the month of August, as with everybody else in the federal government as far as Congress is concerned, much like Congress, the entire month of August is more or less downtime for the president and the members of the Senate and the members of the House. And President Biden has been vacationing at various places, be it his home in Delaware or at the beach in Delaware. Well, for the longest time, President Biden would not visit the island of Maui. As a matter of fact, when he was first asked about it, he's walking to his car, and there's some distance, obviously, between him and the reporters, and you all may have seen the clip. Mr. President, do you have any comments about Maui? No comment. Got in his car and left. On the tarmac, getting ready to get on to Air Force One, and his press secretary standing right beside him and various other members of the cabinet, etc. And he asks, the reporter says, "Can you tell us about your trip to Maui?" No. He turns around and leaves. Very curt, very short, very unsympathetic, very uninspiring, if you get right down to it. And as you might imagine, this did not set well with the people of Maui or the people of the state of Hawaii in general. So I'm going to start with giving you an idea of the kind of greeting Joe Biden got when he got to the island of Maui. So hang on, folks. Let me pull something up here real quick. I think you're going to find this to be very, very interesting. I did. I found it to be fascinating. So give me 1 second here. We'll get this thing pulled up. And I want you to take a listen to this. Let me make sure I got all my settings right here. Oh, okay, there it is. All right. Yeah, sometimes I tend to boomer things. I know, imagine that. Listen to this.
Wow, he's finally here. Wow, yeah. Awesome. Yeah, thanks for nothing. You.
Well, needless to say, that didn't go well. And he tends to get that greeting wherever he goes. I don't know why. Kind of interesting. So the people of Hawaii are none too happy to see, or say a portion of Hawaiians are not too happy to see him. Now, in my video that I talked about on Monday, I had mentioned that the federal government was giving $700 per family in Hawaii to help out with the devastation. In other words, immediate needs. Now, y'all notice that I'm emphasizing the words $700 with a certain amount of theatricality. I'll freely admit that, okay? But I'm doing it for purpose. I want it to sink in what the federal government is giving to people who have literally lost everything. And I don't mean just necessarily material possessions. I'm not talking about clothes or cars or a house. Those things are, bad enough. Personal effects, memories that you have, those things are awful to lose. But in some cases, we're talking about children who are dead. And their parents have to live with that. But the federal government's coming along and giving $700 to try and help with immediate needs for people who have been affected by this. Well, it's been a little while since I've seen you. How you doing, you son of a gun? Glad you showed up on the front porch. I hope you brought yourself a big old cup of coffee. We're glad to see you, Mr. Cheddar. Welcome back to the show that never ends. So yeah, the federal government's doing that vis-a-vis through FEMA. Now, I emphasized on my video, do you know what the average house price is in Maui? Oh my Lord, what? You've been playing poker till 4 a.m? You lunatic. How'd you do? Did you win? Or did you get cleaned out? I mean, if you don't want to answer that question, that's fine, but I'm just curious. I mean, if you're going to sit up and play poker till 4 a.m, either you are highly addicted to the game or you just you're on a run and you just can't stop. So I don't know. How'd you do, boy? How'd you do? But yeah, that's what's going on. So the president shows up and oh, you did great. All right, dude. Good job. Now that's how you're supposed to play poker. Now you're talking. Good job, my man. Good job. But okay, getting serious here. So the president shows up in Maui. FEMA's already on the ground. And Joe Biden does what any president in this moment is expected to do. He plays the role of comforter and chief. Okay. That is where Joe Biden starts to get into trouble in this process. So I'm going to pull up a video clip of of Joe Biden talking with some of the firefighters. Now, I want to try and put this in context, okay? And you let it speak for itself. What you don't see in this picture is one of these guys has a hold of a leash of a dog, okay? And I'm going to play this and then I'm going to make my comments, but I want to hear what you guys think in chat, okay? So that sets it up, and take a listen to this.
What's the boss's name? I said, how you doing, pal? He's got his boots on, too. You guys catch the boots out here? That's a hard ground, man.
Okay. So you hear some of this, and I'll try and fill this in for what parts you may not have been able to hear. He's talking to the firefighter who's holding the leash on the dog, and he looks down and says, what's the boss's name? And Biden puts his hand down there to kind of let the dog, sniff of him, which is usually the reverse of what happens because Biden is usually sniffing somebody else, but that's a whole other subject. So Biden's trying to be friendly with the dog, and he points out the fact that the dog is wearing boots, which you kind of would expect, all things considered, okay? And then he points to the reporters and he points to the dog and says, "Hey, did you check out those boots? Man, that's really hot ground around here." Now, before I say anything, now that sets it up. If you've got comments, I want to hear them. And as a matter of fact, Vermont Cheddar has already weighed in. Hang on, I'm going to show this real quick. Here we go. I'm not going to spam chat, but Biden is a mystery. Is in a yeah. Well, first of all, Vermont, you can talk as little or as much as you want to, dude. You're not going to offend me either way. Glad to have you here, of course. Yeah, weirder I'm gonna hold my tongue on this one. So if anybody else is watching this right now, it doesn't matter if it's on YouTube or on Rumble, if you got a comment you want to make about that clip, feel free to throw it in because I think this is so worth commenting on. I'll go ahead and give you my thoughts on it. I understand the concept of trying as much as you can. Well, before I do, hang on. Yep, Miss Leanne's weighed in. Yeah, I absolutely agree with you, dear. And I'll explain why here in just a minute. I get the argument of trying as much as you can to build some kind of rapport with people who have gone through this horrible, horrible tragedy. Okay, I get that. What I don't understand, and what I don't think Biden gets, is that there's a time and place under heaven for all things. Okay. There's a time to make jokes, and there's a time not to. And for someone who's been in the public eye for as long as Joe Biden, you would think that he would get it. Okay. You would think that he would realize, you know, that he would know there's a time to joke about something, there's time not to. And you also know that the camera is on you all the time, especially if you are the president of the United States. But apparently none of that registers with Joe Biden in this moment. Now, and Cheddar, I thank you for that. That's very kind of you. Yeah. And you know what? I didn't pull it up today, but I had an article for HodgePodge too, and I might just do it. I might still yet pull it up. That gets into this discussion. So we might take a look at it. But yeah, and for you, what you're going through with your father, My sympathies, my brother. My sympathies. But you ought to know that the camera's going to be on you in a moment like this, and it's just there's time and place for everything. But as if that weren't bad enough, then there's the coup de grace, and this one just frosts me to no end. Okay. This clip runs for about a minute. And you may have seen it, but if you haven't, I'll set it up for you. So Joe Biden is speaking at an event, a survivor's dinner or whatever. He's trying to make commentary. And what he does next is just extraordinary. Believe me, I'm going to warn you now, I will probably go off on this comment. Okay. But I want to set it up just to let you know what you're walking into here. So Joe Biden has a microphone. He's walking around the stage. And he is, making comments about what has happened, the horribleness of it all. And that sets up where we're going next. So take a listen to this.
I don't want to compare difficulties, but we have a little sense, Jill and I, what it's like to lose a home. Years ago, now 15 years ago, I was in Washington doing Meet the Press.
Okay, hold it. I can't let this go. Okay, we have a little sense of what it's like to lose a home. Now, just keep that comment in mind. And keep in mind, he's saying this in front of people who have lost everything. And if they're not there watching him live, they're going to see these comments on their local news or over the internet or somewhere. Okay? Jill and I have some idea of what it's like to lose a home. And if the volume of my voice is going up because of this, I'm not going to lie, it's because I'm getting mad just thinking about it. So just listen to the rest of this.
It was a sunny Sunday, and lightning struck at home on a little lake. It's outside of our home, not a lake, a big pond, and hit a wire and came up underneath our home into the heating ducts, the air conditioning duct. To make a long story short, I almost lost my wife, my 67 Corvette, and my cat.
Oh. Tell me that this is a deep fake video and he really didn't say this. Yeah, I almost lost my wife, my 67 Corvette, and my cat. These people on Maui have lost everything. Their personal possessions, their homes, in some cases, their family members. And you have the unmitigated gall to stand up there and talk about a kitchen fire in your house? And by the way, if you think I'm exaggerating what happened to Joe Biden, that is exactly what happened. There was back in 2004, it was a fire that happened in his kitchen, an electrical fire. Firefighters came there, they had to put out fast. Oh, come on, Front Porch. You shouldn't get worked up about this. Yes, I should. And as far as I'm concerned, every American who has ever seen this clip ought to be just as pissed off as I am. I mean, what in the name of God is this man trying to do here? This fool. Unmitigated fool. Yeah, exactly, Leanne. Exactly. What happened in Biden's house was like his microwave burning up. I mean, just unbelievable, this man. But I tell you what, we'll finish the clip. We'll finish the clip.
But all kidding aside, I watched the firefighters.
Hang on. I just realized I hadn't pulled it back up yet. Sorry about that, folks. All right, maybe my second boomer for the morning. Hopefully my last. Knock on wood. But anyway, back to the clip.
The way they responded. No, there's an old expression. I grew up right across the street from a fire hall in Claymont, Delaware.
Ugh, I can't. I can't with this man. I can't. Just unbelievable, this guy. He has no sense. Yeah, all kidding aside, all kidding aside, it's like, again, I get that you're trying to build some kind of rapport with individuals who have gone through tragedy. I understand that. I've been in this situation. Yeah, you're right, Leanne. He has absolutely no shame at all. None. None. Not an ounce of it. And I get that he's trying to build rapport with these people. But what in the name of God are you doing? These people have quite literally lost it all. And you're standing there joking about the little inconveniences that you had. Yeah, almost lost my wife, my 67 Corvette, and my cat. But all kidding aside, oh my God, you thoughtless, insensitive, just, oh my God. I'm I apologize to you if you're watching this either live or you're going to see it later. I'm sorry. This just infuriates me to no living end watching this. To know that this man has multiple houses, multi-millions of dollars. He's the president of the United States, which comes with all the perks and privileges of that office. And then he's sitting there joking about almost losing his wife, his 67 Corvette, and his cat to a small electrical fire that was put out in a matter of minutes, which probably his insurance took care of everything very quickly because he was then Senator Joe Biden. Just unfreaking believable, this guy. I can't with him, to borrow an expression the kids use these days. I can't with this guy. Now, there's one more clip I got to play of Joe Biden. And this one is, I'm going to give him benefit of the doubt on this one. Okay. I'm going to give him benefit of the doubt. I'll just go so far as to say it's not a good look. Okay. Because this sort of thing has happened to him before and people have made a lot of it. So let me pull this back up. And y'all probably, if you're watching right now live, you may have seen this clip either on the internet or somewhere else, but take a look at this and watch what happens. Now, this runs about 30 seconds.
We are a community that relies on family, on ohana, whether by blood or by friendship. But like many others, my son's home burned down. My daughter's home burned down. My home burned down. My parents of 59 years home.
Now, everybody has sort of made the comment, oh, he fell asleep. Okay, as much as I dislike Joe Biden, and God knows I do for so many different reasons, I mean, I'll give him benefit of the doubt on this one. I didn't see his head, drooping up and down or, the normal things that you would expect with someone who's falling asleep. And Lord knows I've done it. I mean, I'm not saying I'm perfect either. Okay. But again, the camera is going to be on you every minute that you're there because you're the president of the United States. Okay. I can't believe how unaware he is of what's happening. it just boggles my mind. It really does. Truly, it does. But that's not all that was being reported out of Maui this week. This one is the one that, there's a lot of people upset about this on the island of Maui and in the state of Hawaii in general. I'm going to pull this up real quick because this definitely bears conversation. Now, keep in mind, FEMA is giving away $700 per family for immediate needs care. What's FEMA doing while they're in Maui? Oh, nothing much, except they're just staying at luxury hotels that cost $1,000 a night. This is from the UK Daily Mail. This article came out about 3 days ago. Exclusive. FEMA officials are staying at $1,000 a night luxury hotels in Maui amid recovery efforts in Lahaina. FEMA officials have been slammed by Maui locals for their slow response to the devastating wildfires that ripped through Lahaina earlier this month. But DailyMail.com can reveal that FEMA are staying at 3 5-star hotels: the Fairmont Kilani, the Four Seasons, and the Grand Wale Astoria during recovery efforts. Federal government rates for the week at all 3 resorts start at an eye-watering $1,000. That's the government rate, folks. $1,000. A little further into this article written by James Franey for DailyMail.com, bungling U.S. government bureaucrats dispatched to the Maui disaster zone are shacked up in $1,000 a night luxury hotels on the Hawaiian island, Daily Mail can reveal. Officials from FEMA have been slammed by locals over their slow response to the devastating wildfires that have claimed at least 114 and left thousands of people homeless after their homes were scorched to the ground. But that hasn't stopped the Under Fire agency from splashing taxpayer cash to put up more than 1,000 of their personnel. 1,000, okay? Their personnel at 4 bank-breaking resorts in Wale after the deadliest wildfire in the U.S. for more than a century has caused an estimated $5 billion in damage. The beachside resorts are popular among the rich and famous and located about a 45-minute drive away from fire-ravaged town of Lahaina. Now, let's stop and think about this for a second. I want to run some numbers real fast. And Leanne, darling, if I could get your help on this, I'd genuinely appreciate it. So $1,000 a night, and you've got 1,000 workers from FEMA at these 3 hotels. Now, let's just say, for the sake of argument, that somebody at FEMA had the good sense to say, okay, you 1,000 people, you're going to shack up 4 to a room. So that knocks it down to about 250 rooms. Okay. 250 rooms at $1,000 a night. And let's say, for the sake of argument, that they're there for 30 days. Leanne, darling, if you got a calculator handy, could you do, either you or Robert or Cheddar out there, would one of y'all run me a number and tell me what $1,000 a night at 250 rooms by 30 days works out to as far as total cost? Because you got to figure they're going to be there for at least a month. At least. I mean, they're probably going to be there longer, but let's just, for the sake of round numbers here, let's just say 30 days. Could somebody do me a favor and run me a calculator on that and tell me what that works out to? Because I'm dying to know. I really am. 1,000, and that's government rates. Government rates. That's incredible to me. I'll run my own calculator on this too, but yeah, this definitely just mind-boggling. People who have lost everything on the island of Maui and are being offered $700 per family. And FEMA can stay at a 5-star luxury hotel to the tune of $1,000 a night. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. So just for the sake of quick calculations, I've got a number of I got $7.5 million. That's $1,000 a night by 250 rooms by 30 days. $7.5 million. But families on the island of Maui are getting $700. And you wonder why Joe Biden's being flipped off as his motorcade goes by and being told, fuck you. When Joe Biden can roll in, make some cheesy, stale, insensitive, and inappropriate jokes, and then the people that he has dispatched to try to help the residents of Maui are staying at 5-star hotels to the tune of $1,000 a night, you sort of begin to understand why people in Hawaii are pissed off. I didn't have it pulled up, and I wish I had it, but there were people who were like, we don't want him here. We want him gone. We want him to leave and don't come back. I mean, they were like, there were yard signs on cardboard that, were like, Trader Joe gotta go. Just unbelievable, the disconnect between the governed and the government. Just shocking to me. I mean, I shouldn't be, because I'm old enough that I know this crap happens, but I am, because I just can't believe, especially after Katrina, by the way, especially after Katrina, that people in the federal government are this insensitive to what's going on in the world and to how people are going to react finding out news like this. So, just some things to think about. So it's about, hang on, let me look at my clock here. It's about 10 minutes after 11 on Saturday morning. My name is Brian. If you're coming to this live stream right in the middle of it, my name is Brian Trippett. I'm the Front Porch Conservative. We've got a wonderful group of people in chat. We've got Leanne, we've got Robert, we've got Vermont Cheddar, and we probably got some folks over on Rumble too. The Rumble people to me are kind of interesting, and I don't mean that facetiously. I am all about people participating to the level that they want to. But I tell you what, Rumble people are notorious for being quiet. I don't know if it's my loud sort of, boisterous personality or, makes people shy on Rumble or what it is, but very rarely do I get Rumble people to comment on what's going on. Now, for those of y'all on Rumble that are watching this right now, first of all, I don't bite unless you ask me, but that's a whole other context. But if you're out there on Rumble, say hello. We'd love to find out who you are. We'd love to say hello to you. Drop a comment in chat. We'd love to hear from you. So we've got YouTube going. We got Rumble going. We're on Twitter. And, we're having a good time this morning. We're just going over some of the news from the previous week, sipping on our favorite beverages. And by now it's 11 a.m. And if I know Leanne, she's got her first Bloody Mary going. Bless her heart. But yeah, drop a comment in chat. We'd love to hear from you. We are not monetized on YouTube, but for you Rumblers over there, and no, I'm not doing this to make you feel guilty, by the way. We are monetized on Rumble. So if you feel like contributing to the Fedora Fund with a super chat, well, I'm not going to object too terribly. Now, please don't do anything, it's going to put you in a bad spot. Times are tough, and, I get that. So, but if you've got some extra coin and you feel like throwing it in the Fedora Fund, I'm not going to object in the slightest. So drop a comment in Rumble, drop a super chat if you want to. We're going to move on now to our next story. And this one is kind of interesting for a lot of different reasons for me. As you all may or may not be aware, but if you're not aware, I'll go ahead and tell you, there were two very important media events that happened this week. Now, I say that they're both important because one, I think, gives a real demonstration of the future of how we're going to take in news and information. One of them, I think, is a relic, or is on its way to becoming a relic of how we obtain and take in information. I also think those two media events are important because they're representative of two different strains of politics to a large extent. And if you're wondering what I'm referring to, the one media event is Tucker Carlson's interview of Donald Trump on Twitter. Notice I didn't say Fox News. I didn't say ABC. I didn't say CNN. I didn't say MSNBC. I didn't say it was printed in the New York Times or the Washington Post. No, it was on Twitter. The other media event of note is the GOP debate among the 8 candidates up in Milwaukee. Okay. There is so much that could be said about these two things. And again, I've got to give a shout out to Flagrant Triggers and Crash Mondo and Ruben Christopher Haynes. First of all, those, if you're not familiar with those guys and their work, they are really good dudes. And I'm not just saying that because they co-hosted with me. I mean, they're all three of them are extremely smart. All three of them are extraordinarily insightful. So please, and I'm going to give a plug here for all three of them right now. Please follow them on YouTube, on Twitter, on Rumble, wherever they've got channels, wherever they are on social media. Please check those guys out. They are genuinely good people. As a matter of fact, Ruben has recently gone through some problems, and I'm going to start running a crawler across the screen if I can make this thing work. So he's got a give, send, go. There's a give, send, go that's set up for him, and I want to put it out there. So please check him out. He is a genuinely good dude. Let's get into the discussion about Tucker Carlson and Donald Trump. The first thing that fascinates me about Tucker and Trump, and this goes back a little bit to when Tucker was dismissed from Fox News. Everybody was, well, let me rephrase that. Fox News was hoping that when they got rid of Tucker Carlson, that it would lessen his influence or silence his voice. Little did they realize the era in which they find themselves. Now, from the perspective of the owners of Fox News, which is Rupert Murdoch and his sons who run the network, I don't agree with why they got rid of Tucker Carlson, not by a long shot. I understand the business decision that they made. I think it sucks. I think it's terrible on so many levels, but I get it. But I think what the Murdochs did in getting rid of Tucker betrayed or revealed, is maybe a better way of saying it, revealed to the public just how out of step they are with information technology or the era in which they operate. They got rid of Tucker, and I'll make an argument that Tucker Carlson got more powerful. I'll make an argument that Tucker Carlson got more influential. And if you don't believe me, let me show you something. This is, hang on, here we go. This is the interview. It's a 45-minute interview that Tucker Carlson posted with Donald Trump. I want you to look at this. 259 million views. Now, there's some controversy about, are these views or are they impressions? Well, if you listen to Jeremy from the Quartering, he'll say they're impressions. They're not really views. And he gets bent out of shape when he says, oh, Tucker Carlson got 259 million views. Jeremy from the Quartering will just be like, no, he got impressions. Well, look, I'm an old fart, okay? I'm not going to sit here and argue the semantics or the definitions of what is a view versus what is an impression. All I know is this. A whole lot of people saw that 45-minute interview between Tucker Carlson and Donald Trump. Okay. And for the record, a whole lot more people saw that interview between Tucker Carlson and Donald Trump than they did the GOP debate in Milwaukee. Okay. I think one number that I heard was the GOP debate in Milwaukee got upwards of 12 million views. And by the end of the first 24 hours, this thing was already over 160 million views on Twitter. Okay. Now, I want to play a snippet, or I want to play it's not really a snippet, it's the teaser trailer that Tucker Carlson put together before the interview went live. And this gives you an idea of the kind of questions that Donald Trump was being asked. So give me 1 second and I'll get this thing pulled up. Take a listen to some of the following here. This is really interesting to me. Let me get this thing going. Okay. Take a listen to this.
Why aren't you at the Fox News debate tonight in Milwaukee?
Well, a lot of people have been asking me that.
When you say there are people on stage who shouldn't be running for president, who do you mean? Whatever happened to Mike Pence? He's out there attacking you. What is that? Do you think Epstein killed himself sincerely? Do you think we're moving towards civil war?
It's good to have you at Bedminster. It's very nice.
I love it. You're saying they stole it from you last time. Why wouldn't they do the same this time?
Oh, well, they'll try. They're going to be trying. Mitch McConnell is trying to get senators to impeach me. Crooked Joe Biden is so bad. He's the worst president in the history of our country. I don't think he's going to make it to the gate, but, you never know.
It started with protests against you, then it moved to impeachment twice,
Right.
And now indictment. Are you worried that they're going to try and kill you? Why wouldn't they try and kill you, honestly?
They're savage animals. They are people that are sick.
So do you think it's possible that there's open conflict?
I can say this. There's a level of passion that I've never seen. There's a level of hatred that I've never seen, and that's probably a bad combination. We're doing this interview, but we'll get bigger ratings using this crazy forum that you're using than probably the debate.
Okay. So that was the teaser trailer. And when that teaser trailer came out, they had multi-millions of views on the teaser trailer. Hours before the GOP debate ever started, which gave you an idea of what was going on. If I remember the numbers correctly, the night that Crash Mondo, Flagrant Triggers, Ruben, and I did that live stream, by the time we were done, Tucker Carlson's interview on Twitter had over 80 million views versus the GOP debate. And the only two differences are, I should say. One, Tucker Carlson started at 5 minutes to 9. Number two, Tucker Carlson's interview was 45 minutes long. Now, some thoughts about Tucker Carlson. I mean, I wanted to play that teaser trailer. I mean, there's a lot of things I could have played from the actual interview. But that teaser trailer gives you an idea of the questions that Tucker Carlson was asking. And you know what? On the whole, I have no complaint with Tucker Carlson's interview. I've got one criticism, though. And it struck me very interesting that night. If you have not seen this yet, I will give you one spoiler. Tucker Carlson never brought up the subject of COVID or the vaccine or anything related to that. And I personally found that to be disappointing. Now, don't get me wrong. I get it. I mean, there are people that I interview, and I'll let you in on a policy that I have personally. Whenever I'm inviting someone to come on for my Thursday night live stream, Chatting on the Porch, I will tell them up front. Let me rephrase it. I'll ask them, are there subjects you would like to talk about? Because, let's be honest, maybe someone's trying to promote a book, like my last guest, Daniel Street. Maybe, the polling data that Rich Barris is doing, maybe he wants to talk about that. On the flip side of that, I'll ask them, are there subjects you don't want to talk about? Now, some people will hear me say that and they go, well, aren't you being a little bit of a chicken? Well, first of all, wait a minute. Number one, I'm not a journalist. Okay. Christian, I'm on poor. I know you're out there watching me this morning. God love you. But I'm not a journalist, Christian, I am not a journalist. Okay. I'm just a fellow that's trying to have a conversation. I find someone that intrigues me for any number of different reasons. I want to talk to them. I want to find out why they're doing what they're doing, what makes them tick, where have they come from, what's their background. So, but on the other hand, I will respect them and their privacy enough to say, look, if there's something you don't want to talk about, we're not going to talk about it. Just tell me up front. On the other hand, Tucker Carlson is a journalist. Donald Trump is a public figure and is the former president of the United States. And this subject of COVID and vaccines and vaccine policy and everything else is going to come up between now and November 2024. So that's really my only major criticism of what Tucker did during the interview. On the whole, I found it to be a wonderful format. And you know what? As a person still trying to figure out how to do the things that I'm doing on social media, Tucker Carlson gave me a wonderful blueprint or an example of how to conduct a really good interview. The interview was relaxed. These are two men that I think, admire each other. They might disagree on some things, but they admire each other. And Tucker, did a wonderful interview, a nice, relaxed conversation. And again, and I'm not going to lie, for me, I was having a load of fun Wednesday night watching that interview, and especially the fact that I got to do it with, Flagrant Triggers, Crash Mondo Jr., and Ruben Christopher Haynes. And like I said, please follow those guys on social media. They deserve a sub. Each one of them. They're very sharp, very funny. They've got a great sense of humor, every last one of them. So that is the interview between Tucker and Donald Trump. Now that sets up the contrast with what happened up in Milwaukee. Now I've been saying, for weeks leading up to this, Trump shouldn't do it. He shouldn't go up there. And I did that on the basis, number one, Trump was way too far ahead in the polls from a political operative standpoint. If I were advising Trump, I'd say, look, you're leading in the polls. Don't do it. The other reason is that you don't do it is it's going to turn into a food fight. Well, by all accounts, that is what it was. Now, if you're looking for somebody to give commentary on the GOP debate, may I reference you to my friend Mike Harlow. Mike Harlow did a live stream that very same night. He started out covering the Tucker-Trump interview, and then he switched over to the debate. And if you're looking for reactions, and humorous ones, might I add, may I recommend my good buddy Mike Harlow. He's got a YouTube channel. He's on Locals. He's got a lot of different things. Go check him out too. He's a good dude. But I'm going to play a snippet that the Washington Post put together on their YouTube page, just to give you an idea of what this was like. Now, Fox News hosted this debate. Rumble had exclusive streaming rights to it. Okay. And we might stop this at various points to make comment on certain things about it. Okay. But I'm going to pull this up, and this is 3 minutes long. We may or may not watch the whole thing, but this will give you an idea of what the atmosphere in Milwaukee was like. So take a listen to this.
Is in decline. This decline is not inevitable. It's a choice. We need to send Joe Biden back to his basement and reverse American decline.
You all signed a pledge to support the eventual Republican nominee. If former President Trump is convicted in a court of law, would you still support him as your party's choice? Please raise your hand if you would.
Okay, I want to stop that right there for a second. I absolutely have to comment on, okay? Did you notice what Ron DeSantis did? Okay, so Brett Baer asked the question, if he's convicted in a court of law, would you still support your party's nominee? Raise your hand. Vivek Ramaswamy raised his hand, shot his hand up in the air, no less. Okay, but did you notice what DeSantis was doing? Kind of looked around to his right, looked over to his left, and he saw other people had their hands raised and went, oh my God. Okay, pardon my language, Ron, but you're being a chicken shit. Okay? I'm sorry. That is a gutless move. And people Yeah, exactly, Leanne. Exactly. He was looking around to see what everybody else did. That is gutless. That is spineless. It is proof of the fact you have no conviction. It is proof of the fact you are the worst form of politician that there is. And, buddy, if your campaign wasn't on life support already, it's definitely there now. And, the patient's heartbeat is skipping a few because you're about done. That may have finished you off. Oh my gosh. I mean, that is the biggest gutless, one of the most gutless. I'll tell you what it reminds me of. My home state senator, Joe Manchin, was attending, I believe it was Donald Trump's 2018 State of the Union address. And at one point, Trump, made a comment, something like that. And Joe Manchin started to stand up and started to applaud. He's giving his agreement with the statement that was just made. And then he looked over at Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer and saw that Chuck was not standing up, was not smiling, was not clapping about it. And immediately Joe Manchin sat back down. That is exactly what Ron DeSantis just did. He looked around to see which way the wind was blowing, and then he went with it. Sorry, folks. It's stuff like that just absolutely burns my rear end. It absolutely burns me alive. All right, so let's keep on going with this.
I mean, look, Joe Biden has weakened this country at home and abroad. Now is not the time for on-the-job training. We don't need to bring in a rookie. We don't need to bring in people without experience. We need to bring.
Do you believe in human behavior is causing climate change? Raise your hand if you do.
Look, we're not school children. Let's have the debate. I mean, I'm happy to take it to start.
Okay. I've also got to stop for a second and talk about Mike Pence, or Judas, as he is known in some circles. That's Leanne. I don't know if it's a thing where he became an ass or he always was one and could hide it better. That's a great question, though. It's a really great question. When did he I think he's always been one. He just had the ability to hide it better. I just and the part that got me about Pence's comment, that really kind of got me about it, does that sound familiar to you guys? Harken back to 2015 and the early Republican debates. What was one of the criticisms of Donald Trump? He's never been in government. Never been in government. They're now doing the same thing to this 38-year-old businessman. Fascinating. Just fascinating. So we will continue with this little, we're about a minute into it. Runs a couple of more minutes. I'll stop it where I think is appropriate. So let's get this thing pulled back up. And in 3, 2, 1.
Alexander, as somebody that's handled disasters in Florida, you got to be activated. You got to be there. You got to be present.
I've had enough already tonight of a guy who sounds like ChatGPT standing up here.
This is exactly.
Okay, I got to comment on this. I don't particularly like Chris Christie. Okay, but honestly, that may have been Chris Christie's best line of the night. Now, we're going to play the full thing here in a minute because, frankly, the exchange is fantastic, okay, between Governor Chris Christie and Vivek Ramaswamy. It's just hysterical when you hear all of it. So let's get back to the rest of the video.
Exactly why Margaret Thatcher said, if you want something said, ask a man. If you want something done, ask a woman.
Okay, all right, hang on a minute. Nikki, we all know you're a woman. You don't need to point that out. But why are you making being a woman a big campaign issue? It's like Margaret Thatcher said, if you want something said, ask a man. If you want something done, ask a woman. as though being a woman is somehow a better criteria for being president than is being a man. That's basically the essence of your argument. Okay? I mean, think about that for a minute. I mean, honestly, Nikki, how sexist is it of you to drop that kind of a thing? I mean, talk about feminism in reverse. You're being an absolutely sexist pig if you get right down to it. If you want something done, if you want something said, let a man do it. If you want something done, ask a woman. Oh my, unbelievable. So we continue.
Can't we have a minimum standard in every state in the nation that says when a baby is capable of feeling pain, an abortion cannot be allowed?
Don't make women feel like they have to decide on this issue when you know we don't have 60 Senate votes in the House.
70% of the American people support legislation
but
to ban
70%
abortion
of the
after
Senate
a baby is
does
capable
not.
of experiencing
Okay.
pain.
Okay, I got to comment on this abortion thing. I and others have said for the longest time that the current crop of people who are the leaders of the Republican Party are stupid. If you need proof of it, just listen to this, diarrhea diatribe about the subject of abortion. Why, in the name of God, are we discussing a federal ban on abortion? You idiots! You idiot GOP politicians! Do you not understand what Dobbs versus Mississippi did? It referred the matter back to the states. Justice Scalia said that in his summary before he went into a brilliant multi-page opinion. The whole point of Dobbs is to get it back in the hands of the state legislatures so that the state of New Jersey, Governor Christie, can debate the question, vote on a policy, the governor signs it, it becomes law in New Jersey. I may not agree with it morally, but it's law of the land in New Jersey. In South Carolina, if the legislature wants to vote on the question, former Governor Haley, the legislature in South Carolina can vote on the question, send it to the governor signs it, it becomes law of the land in the state of South Carolina. Vice President Pence, same thing. And yeah, good point. Good point, Leanne. The only one who said it needs to be left up to the states, if I'm not mistaken, and that's absolutely the right position to take. We spent 50 years in this country, the pro-life movement, people who support the pro-life position, spent 50 years trying to get this thing back in the hands of the state legislatures, and by overturning Roe, constitutionally speaking, that's exactly what happened. And now you've got a bunch of moron grandstanding politicians trying to get a federal ban through the Congress when they know they never will. Why? Just so they can keep the issue ginned up. They can make money off of it. They can raise campaign contributions, etc., and so on. We got some truly, truly stupid people running for president. Unbelievable. Okay, back to the video. I'm going to cool off for a second, or try to.
I wish you well in your future career on the boards of Lockheed and Raytheon.
I'm not on
but the fact of the matter,
and Raytheon, and
Boeing came off of it. But you've been pushing this lie. You've been pushing this lie all week,
You want
Nikki.
to go and defund Israel? You want to
okay,
give
let me
Taiwan
address
to
that.
China?
I'm glad you brought that up.
Go and give
I'm going to
Ukraine
address
Russia?
each of those right now. This is the false lies of a professional politician. There you have
Under
it.
your watch,
So the
you make
reality is,
America less safe. You have no foreign policy experience, and it shows.
and you know what? The
It
foreign
shows.
policy experience that
The most
Remember what I said about a food fight? Each candidate had 30 or 45 seconds to state their position. So somebody gets to respond to it. If somebody addresses somebody else directly in their comment, that person gets to respond. And it's a verbal food fight. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And you know what? I like Brett Baer, May not agree with everything he says and does as a journalist, but I like Bret Baier. I think he's a decent guy. I think Martha McCallum's a decent person from everything that I know about them. But they had no control over this. This was like trying to get a high school food fight under control. But we'll continue with the video.
Most pressing need of the American people from a national security standpoint is our southern border. It has led to the death of 70,000 Americans because of fentanyl.
When after 9/11, we had the global war on terror, and guess what? We protected the border at the same time. You can do both.
But the American people deserve to know that the president asked me in his request that I reject or return votes unilaterally, power that no vice president in American history had ever exercised or taken.
Whoa! Hold it, Mike. Hold it. All right, I'm going to step in on this one. Listen, I am not a PhD in American history, nor do I have a Juris Doctorate in law, but even I can read history books. Okay? John Adams, in the election of 1796, when he was vice president and presiding over the count of the Electoral College, dismissed some electors, kept some in. Jefferson did the same thing in 1800. Down through the years, this has been done. The argument that says that the vice president does not have that power is absolutely a lie. Just because the power may not have been exercised in a very long time does not mean that the vice president presiding over a joint session of Congress to count and determine the electors doesn't have the power to do certain things beyond magisterial. Okay? Judas over here, he didn't betray Donald Trump. Let's lay that question to the side. How about betraying truth and the Constitution? How about betraying the voters who want to know that the votes that are cast for electors to decide who the president is, that they're getting a fair shake? Judas Pence over here, and yes, I'm borrowing from Steve Bannon on this, but I'll give him credit for it. Judas Pence over here absolutely sold the American people right down the river, regardless of whether Donald Trump would have won if those electors had been reviewed. Mike Pence absolutely betrayed everybody on this one. So this comment about, oh, no vice president has this authority, BS. They've got the authority. You just decided not to use it. But let us continue as I again try to cool off.
He asked me to put him over the Constitution. And I chose the Constitution, and I always will.
BS. Okay, so that gives you an idea of what happened in Milwaukee. Now, I want to step back for a second and make some comments. Tucker's interview with Donald Trump only lasted 45 minutes. You could make an argument maybe 42, 43, laying aside intros and stuff like that. And you could criticize Donald Trump's answers. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. Some of them I thought were kind of, rehashed answers or rehashed comments or rehashed criticisms, which I'm not saying they're necessarily wrong. I'm just saying, in a moment like that, you would hope that Donald Trump would present something more than just, comments or cliched comments that you've made in previous situations. I'm not necessarily saying those comments are wrong. I'm just saying, can you give us something else? But it was a relaxed interview format. Okay. There was a substantive discussion. I thought, honestly, there were some answers that Trump gave that I thought were pretty surprising. I believe at one point that Tucker asked him, did you realize, or how long did it take after you became president that you realized the CIA wasn't playing it straight with you? And Trump, to his credit, and Crash Mondo pointed this out better than anybody, to his credit, pointed out, Trump admitted, yeah, I didn't realize how bad the CIA was playing me. And Crash made the comment, that's the most humility he had seen out of Donald Trump in an answer like that in maybe ever. And I can't disagree with Crash. He's right. I thought at some moments Trump gave some very interesting answers. To me, the one comment from that night that I thought was fascinating was when Donald Trump said, the American people don't get as much credit as they deserve for being as smart as they are. And he was talking about that in the context of the American people seeing him being indicted on 4 separate occasions with multiple charges in 4 different venues. And that was the context in which he made the statement. He said, the American people see what's going on here. But I thought that was maybe the line of the night. The American people don't get credit for being as smart as they are. That was a really interesting answer. That was a really interesting observation. Trump, at the end of the interview, was asked by Tucker Carlson, do you think we're going to civil war? And I understand the argument of why Trump tried to answer it the way he did, because as tense as things are right now, nobody, at least I think from the conservative or moderate standpoint, wants to give an answer that has the capability of inflaming the passions even more than what they are. So I get that. But even Trump made the observations that we got, people who are, who are full of love. We got people that are full of hate. And depending on who that is, that's a dangerous combination to have in an individual. So I thought, and I'm saying all that about the interview overall to contrast it to Milwaukee. I'm sorry. Milwaukee was a disaster. And if you don't believe me, well, wait, let me back up 1 second. I got to play one more clip from the Milwaukee debate. I said that I would give Chris Christie and Vivek Ramaswamy the full treatment here. And this is great. Like I said, I don't agree with Christie on much of anything, but I tell you what, when it comes to verbally walking up to somebody and smacking them in the chops, Chris Christie's great at it. So I'm going to play this because to me, this has got to be one of the funniest exchange of the night. Listen to this.
I've had it. No, wait, hold on. I've had enough. I've had enough already tonight of a guy who sounds like ChatGPT standing up here. And the last person in one of these debates, Brett, who stood in the middle of the stage and said, what's a skinny guy with an odd last name doing up here, was Barack Obama, and I'm afraid we're dealing with the same type of amateur standing on stage tonight.
Come over and give me a hug.
Come on. Hey, come over and give me, Vivek Ramos was like, hey, come over and give me a hug like you gave Barack Obama. I was great on both sides. It was absolutely fantastic. Yeah. Well, good morning. Good morning, Ramon. Mr. Caruso, glad to have you here. I think you're a first-time viewer. If you are, just give me a comment in chat. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I'm worried. On the backside of the curve, and yeah, that debate in Milwaukee could very well be proof of that. I ain't gonna lie. But yeah, Mr. Caruso, we're glad to have you here this morning. If you're a first-time visitor, give me a comment in chat and let me know. Glad to have you. But yeah, this is just kind of, that debate was a food fight. There's just no other way of saying it. And if you don't believe me, I'm going to play a clip from Glenn Greenwald. Now, Glenn Greenwald is a I would define him as a liberal journalist. Although, depending on what the issue is, you might find you have more agreement with Glenn than you realize. So, he was doing some post commentary after the debate, and I want you to listen to what he says here, because this to me is really interesting. Let me get this thing pulled up. Just an interesting observation. It's like a 2-minute clip. I'm going to play the first minute of it. But this to me is just fascinating. Listen to this.
You saw these politicians, Nikki Haley, Chris Christie, Tim Scott, Mike Pence, who really sound like they're from the Republican Party of 2004, 2008, 2012. They would fit perfectly within the party of Mitt Romney and John McCain and George Bush when he was running. I don't think they have any conception of the fact that the reason 2016 and Donald Trump's victory was such a cataclysmic moment in American politics, it isn't that Trump ushered in changes in how Republican Party voters were thinking about things like militarism and imperialism and war and priorities and the swamp and their contempt for corporatism and lobbyists and the way that they run Washington. Those sentiments predated Trump. He detected them, he observed them, and he was the one who was able best to give voice to them. If you go back and look at Ron Paul's campaign in 2008 and 2012, he was sounding exactly those same things, going into South Carolina and Iowa and some of the deepest red districts that are in the early part of that Republican presidential campaign and railing against neoconservatives and the evils of the Iraq War and the complete waste of funds that go into constant new regime change wars.
Okay, I'm going to stop this for just a second. We might play the rest of this because I tell you what, this is really good. But you notice what Glenn Greenwald said at the beginning. These politicians that were on stage Thursday night, and I don't disagree with him, by the way, they sound like Republicans from 2004, 2008, 2012. They don't get it. The base of the Republican Party has moved on from these people. The base of the Republican Party is more interested now in protecting the southern border. And you can make an argument, always has been, but they're definitely more interested now in protecting the southern border than they are seeing us get into more conflicts around the world. They're more interested in making sure that fentanyl isn't killing their kids. They're more interested in making sure that working class Americans have jobs. Excuse me. Sorry about that. They're more interested in things that that politicians in D.C. don't want. And yeah, Leanne, I think you're absolutely right. Voters don't want that anymore. And I think Glenn Greenwald is absolutely right. Donald Trump didn't necessarily come out of that movement, but he picked up on the sentiment. He picked up on where voters were in America. And to some extent, they represented him. I mean, everybody keeps thinking, Donald Trump represents a whole lot of people. Well, no, I think we're representing Trump. It might very well be the other way around. And I want to go back to one other comment that I made at the very beginning of this segment. That these two media events are reflections of different things. They're definitely different reflections of different ideologies, different priorities. Donald Trump's about securing the border, building the wall, getting tough on China, getting us out of military conflicts around the world, ending our involvement in the Ukraine war, etc. And these guys up in Milwaukee are just dancing around, strutting about like roosters in a barnyard, or chicken, considering that it's Nikki Haley involved. But they're talking about stuff that's 10 years ago. It doesn't matter. Those beliefs, those ideologies that these 8 individuals in Milwaukee up on the stage were espousing and holding on to, they don't reflect the people who make up the Republican Party now. I think these two events last week on Wednesday were just an amazing contrast in different things. New media versus old media. New Republican politics versus old Republican politics. Man of the people versus man or woman of Washington, D.C. It's a fascinating contrast, and I definitely think ought to be kept an eye on. One last comment, we'll switch topics. We got to the end of that live stream, Flagrant, Crash, Ruben, and I said, you know what? I think the next debate is scheduled to be out at the Reagan Library. If I were Trump, I'd get a hold of Joe Rogan, and I'd see if Joe Rogan wanted to do a debate the same night as they were out at the Reagan Library. I mean, why stop with Tucker Carlson? Let's just go all the way here. But Trump, Donald, Mr. President, if you're watching this, and I know you are, because daggone it, I know you're up every Saturday morning watching my live stream. As well you should, young man. But if you're watching this, and I know you are, beware. You go talk to Joe Rogan. He's going to bring up vaccines. He's going to bring up vaccine policy. I still think you should do it, but, just be aware this is what you're going to get. All right, it's about 11:50 in the morning, and I think we have just about exhausted all of that. And I want to thank everybody who's here this morning. You guys are awesome. Just absolutely awesome. Glad you're here. Be it on YouTube, be it on Rumble, be it on Twitter. My name is Brian Trippett. I'm the Front Porch Conservative, and this is Front Porch Brunch. It's a live stream we do every Saturday morning to talk about the news from the previous week. And let me tell you something, and I wholeheartedly believe this. I have got the smartest audience on the internet. We are much like that line from Taming of the Shrew. Though we be tiny, we are fierce. I'll take Robert, I'll take Leanne, I'll take Ramon, I'll take Vermont Cheddar, I'll take any of my listeners and viewers, and I'll match them up against anybody for their common sense and their ability to communicate what they believe. I really do believe that. I've got the smartest audience on the internet. And for y'all on Rumble, bless your hearts, I know you're over there. And if you don't want to comment, that's cool. I get it. But drop a comment in chat. We'd love to hear from you. And like I said earlier, if you want to drop a Rumble rant, well, I'm not going to object terribly. Can't do it on YouTube yet, although we're getting closer. We're really getting closer to being monetized in such a way that people want to give a super chat or whatever. That's cool too. But yeah. But if you want to drop a Rumble rant or leave a comment over there on Rumble, love to hear from you. And if you don't want to, that's cool. The fact that you're there, I genuinely appreciate it. So let's switch gears and get into the other big story of the week, which this is one of those stories where I don't think people who are enemies of Donald Trump realize the favor that they have done him. Now, what I'm referring to is the indictment in Georgia and the arraignment and arrest of Donald J. Trump. Now, as I've said in previous videos and on previous live streams, everybody knew this thing in Georgia was coming down, okay? So last week, Fannie Willis, who we here on the Front Porch refer to as Fannie Pack, drops the charges, lays them out, an indictment of Trump and 18 other individuals on RICO charges. Craziest thing I've ever heard of, but we're not going to get into that. I'll address it if I'm asked about it, but I'm not so much going to get to that. The sheriff of Fulton County supposedly was actually bragging to people he couldn't wait to get Donald Trump's mugshot. Well, be careful what you ask for. So Trump comes to Atlanta on Thursday and is processed at the Fulton County Jail at about 7:30 Eastern, about the time I started my interview with Daniel Street. And what came out of that may be one of the most culturally changing images that's happened since maybe Barack Obama's Hope and Change poster. If you are wondering what I am talking about, I'm going to pull this up, and I'm just going to, definitely want to hear what you guys think of this. Okay, so please put your comments in chat. I'm dying to hear your reaction to this. But take a look at this. This is the mugshot of Donald Trump. Look at that face. Does that look like somebody that is cowering in a corner inside his own mind? Does that look like somebody that, doesn't realize the gravity of the situation that he's in? Does that look like somebody who's going to back down? No, it does not. As a matter of fact, there is one word that has been used to describe Donald Trump's look. Gangsta. Now, I use that word advisedly. Oh, that's something I hadn't thought about, but that's a good point. Leanne's mom says that he looks like the Uncle Sam poster. Yeah, fierce. Absolutely fierce. There's all kinds of things that you can say about Donald Trump. Okay? But the man is great at two things: knowing the moment that he is in and knowing how to market. Now, I'm laughing because what's coming next is great. So the mugshot goes out, and that sets up some of the best memes that I have ever seen. Here's an article from Breitbart. This is great. The best Trump mugshot memes are taking over social media. I want to show you some of these. These are great. Look at this one. I think this was Sargon of Akkad who did this one. Look at that. Glowing red eyes and the word retribution at the bottom of the This is great. This is absolutely great. Let me scroll down here through another one. There's some of these that are just absolutely fantastic. Here's one. Now the top scene is Christian Bale from the movie American Psycho, and he's looking at a business card, and the line from the movie is, "Oh my God, it even has a watermark." The next thing you got is Donald Trump's picture down below with the Fulton County Sheriff's Department. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I'm laughing so hard, but it's just too funny. It's just too funny. Go a little bit further. Here's something a little Barbie themed. Oh my gosh, this is priceless. Let me see. There's another one here. Oh yeah, here's a good one. No wonder Trump was looking pissed off. If you had Joe Biden sniffing your hair, you'd be mad too. I'm sorry, I got to pull it together here. Oh my, these are great. These are absolutely great. What else have we got here? We got any others? Oh yeah, here's a real good one. Retribution, warrior, justice. You've got the these are great. These are absolutely great. Let's see, have we got another one here? Yeah, I think that's about it. Okay. Now, I bring all this up because, and I say that Trump is an absolute master of knowing how to market himself. Okay. Now, you can argue, agree, disagree that he's right or wrong and whatever it is he's trying to market, be it himself or a policy position or, a product or whatever. Okay. Or himself as a product. Okay. But he's a genius at it. No sooner had that mugshot come out, it was already on t-shirts, it was on sweatshirts, it was on whatever. And it's already gone viral all over social media and all over the country. Now, I said, to the people who wanted this mugshot of Donald Trump and wanted the arraignment and the arrest, be careful what you wish for. Okay. I noticed something that, and feel free to disagree with me, agree with me if you want to. Really want to get your comments on this. I noticed something after the mugshot, and that is there were a ton, and I mean a ton, of African American, particularly African American men, who were taking to Twitter, to Instagram, to TikTok, to YouTube, but particularly things like Twitter and TikTok, etc., and coming out and full-throatedly supporting Donald Trump. I want to play you one in particular. I think it was a pretty good one. This comes from the Twitter page of a gentleman named Tony by Two. Okay. So this runs about 1 minute, and I'm going to play it in its entirety. I don't think I'm going to stop this. I don't really have any reason to, because I want it to speak for itself. I want you to listen to this.
When are you guys gonna learn? The more you indict, the more we unite. Facts. It's Trump 2024. We don't
Wait a minute. Hold it. Thought I was going to be able to get through one episode without this.
don't care. You heard me? We already made our mind up. You already know when the hood got your back. Man, they deep in the hood, gangsters, hollering about Trump 2024. You heard me? Whoop, whoop, wah. Gangsters. The hood got this man back. I'm just trying to tell you. You heard me? And we ain't stupid, man. American people, man. We ain't all them talking about lockdowns and back when the mask and all that. You know, they got a new virus coming and it's gonna be, man, nobody don't care. Ain't fooling nobody no more with none of that. You know, new jack, man, nobody being fooled no more. We all the way up, you heard me? It's Trump 2024. That's what it's gonna be, because we ain't having nothing else.
Okay. I know that I'm not probably going to get a chance to talk to Rich Barris, the People's Pundit, the unofficial pollster of the Front Porch, until maybe October. And I know that he just did a brand new poll, national poll, okay, on the Republican primary and the general election, okay? But I am dying to get into a conversation with Rich, because I've got to ask him. And he may already be talking about this, and I just haven't seen it yet. And if he has, Rich, my apologies to you. You know, just bless my heart. I'm trying to keep up with everything. But I'm dying to find out, talking to Rich Barris, if after that mugshot and that arraignment, I am dying to find out if support from African American men is going up, and if so, how much? I don't know if Trump did what he did consciously or unconsciously when he gave the look he did into the camera before the mugshot was taken, but I'll say this. That look and the fact that Donald Trump now has a mugshot is absolutely resonating with African American men. I can't tell you the number of Twitter videos, TikTok videos, YouTube, various other places where I have seen African American men absolutely positively saying, Trump my, well, I can't use the word they're using. I'll just say, Trump my figure. Substitute an N for the first part of that, and you'll understand where I'm going with it. Trump my figure. They try to arrest my boy. I mean, we're going to back Trump. I think this is amazing. I really do. And it goes back to something that I have said for the longest time now, that there is a convergence of individuals from different walks of life, different ideologies, different backgrounds, different beliefs, and they're coming to a spot. And they're looking around at each other, and they're either saying it out loud or they're thinking to themselves, man, I never thought I'd ever be standing here with you, but I'll do it. Because they look at what's going on with the country and they realize, under normal circumstances, I'd never hang out with you, but for the saving of our country, yeah, I'll do it. I heard of a guy posted I guess it was a TikTok video, I could be wrong. 33 years old, had never voted in his life. Come November 2024, he's voting for Trump. Just because of what they did to him in Atlanta. Just because of that mugshot. It's incredible. They intended it for bad, and now it's maybe turning for good. Who knows? Who knows? I think it's fascinating. They've tried. You got to give the establishment, and when I say establishment, I mean Democrats and Republicans, you got to give them credit for this. They've tried everything. Honest to God, they've tried everything since 2015 to stop this man or to take him down. And yet Trump just keeps coming. It's like that line from Rocky 2. I'll never forget this. It's one of my favorite moments in that movie. Carl Weathers, who plays Apollo Creed, is sitting in his office talking to his promoters and his marketing people, and his trainers in the room. And the trainer keeps trying to get Apollo Creed to fight somebody else other than Rocky Balboa. And finally, Apollo Creed looks at his trainer and says, Tony, what are you afraid of? The trainer gets up and leans into the desk where Carl Weathers is sitting. He says, I saw you beat that man, talking about Rocky Balboa in the film. I saw you beat that man like I ain't never seen you beat nobody before. And the man kept coming after you. Now, the trainer in that movie had the good sense, which is more than I can say for most Democrats and liberals in this country. The trainer went on to say in that line, we don't need this kind of man in our life. Let it go. The Democrats in this country and progressives and liberals and Marxists and communists, they ain't going to let it go. They won't let Trump be. The smartest thing, politically speaking, that they could do is let Donald Trump fade from the scene politically. The smartest thing they could have done in 2020 is let Donald Trump win his second term, and then they're done. They're rid of him. 2024, Trump is off the scene politically. But they couldn't do it. They hated Donald Trump so much, they engaged in various forms of election fornication and got Joe Biden the presidency. Trump is still coming. He's not stopped. He's not backing up. He ain't giving up. He's still coming. And that mugshot may have gone a long way to bringing even more people to Donald Trump's side in the 2024 election. I don't think that African Americans are going to vote by a majority for Donald Trump. But I will say this. There has been a trend over the past several presidential elections where the African American vote is slowly slipping away from the Democrats. Now, African American women still will tend to vote for Democrat candidates almost unanimously. But African American men, particularly below a certain age, are at least willing to give someone like Donald Trump a shot. Notice I didn't say they're going to give Republicans a shot, but they're at least willing to give Donald Trump a shot. So I just think this is just kind of fascinating. I really do. This is just, I think you're right. I mean, I don't know how high the number is going to be, Leanne, but I think you're absolutely right. They're going to vote for Trump 2024. And that mugshot, as odd as it sounds to you and me, I'm an old white guy. What do I know? What do I know about African American culture in America? I'll freely admit that. But for some reason, that mugshot is resonating with African American men. And like I say, what it's going to mean come November next year, I don't know. But I agree with Leanne. I think they're going to vote for Trump in pretty high numbers. It's going to be fascinating to watch how this goes down. So, well, let's see. It's about 10 minutes after 12 on Saturday. And my name is Brian Tripp, and I'm the Front Porch Conservative. Let's see what else we've got. There's one last thing related to the Donald Trump mugshot story. And I found this as I was getting up this morning doing preparation work for the show. You remember how I said that the Uniparty is doing everything they can to keep Donald Trump from getting back to the presidency? I did a video earlier in the week about this academic argument that's being made by some people that the 14th Amendment, Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, precludes Trump from being able to be on the ballot because he engaged in a, quote, insurrection. That section of the 14th Amendment refers specifically to people who engaged in insurrection against the government of the United States during the American Civil War. But some people are saying, well, that clause doesn't just apply to the Civil War. It applies generally. If you've committed insurrection against the government after you've sworn an oath to uphold the Constitution, then you're precluded from office. Well, lest you think that this is just an academic argument, from Breitbart, New Hampshire's Secretary of State weighs in on using the 14th Amendment to keep Trump off the ballot. Article written by Jordan Dixon Hamilton. New Hampshire Secretary of State Dave Scanlon, who's a Republican, by the way, is consulting with the state attorney general to determine if the U.S. Constitution's 14th Amendment empowers him to keep former President Donald Trump off the 2024 ballot. As Secretary of State, Scanlon oversees New Hampshire's first-in-the-nation presidential primary that will take place at the beginning of 2024. However, Scanlon has caught wind of scholars' recent arguments that the 14th Amendment's disqualification clause prohibits Trump from being on the ballot. From ABC 7 of Chicago, that disqualification argument boils down to Section 3 of the Constitution's 14th Amendment, which says that a public official is not eligible to assume public office if they have, quote, engaged in insurrection or rebellion against the United States or had given aid and comfort to the enemies thereof, unless they are granted amnesty by 2/3 vote of Congress. Trump holds a 20-point lead over his Republican challengers in New Hampshire, the latest Echelon Insight survey found. Yeah, now you've got a Republican Secretary of State in New Hampshire. Well, maybe I ought to look into this. These scholars, they're pretty smart people, don't you know? Maybe I can, maybe we should check this thing out and see if, should Donald Trump really be on the ballot in New Hampshire if he engaged in insurrection? Because after all, these scholars are saying that, the 14th Amendment would keep him from being on the ballot. You dirty, slimy, no good pond scum sucking bottom feeder. Why don't you let the people of New Hampshire make that decision? Put Donald Trump's name on the ballot, because remember, there's only 3 qualifications, really, for being president of the United States. You got to be at least 35 years old, a natural-born citizen of the United States, and a resident of the United States for at least 14 years. Congratulations. Donald Trump meets all those qualifications, which, by the way, if you think that, him being indicted and or arrested should keep him off the ballot, may I remind you of 1920. Socialist Eugene V. Debs was in jail, sought to get on the presidential ballot, and succeeded. So, Mr. Secretary of State Scanlon up there in the Granite State, you can take your argument about the 14th Amendment and fly a kite with it. Trump should be on the ballot. Period. End of discussion. No questions asked. And if you had any hope of representing your party in the future, well, you hear that giant flushing sound? That's your hopes going down the drain with the tidy bowl man. So, anyway, one last story for the week, and this one's kind of it's a very bad situation, but it turned out for the good. And this one falls under that section of news that we call HodgePodge Stew. HodgePodge Stew are those stories that maybe they're not as big in national importance, but they kind of catch my eye and, kind of remind me that, there are other things going on other than politics. And to me, this is one of those stories about the innate decency of the American people. This is from the New York Post. Creep accused of sexually assaulting a 5-year-old New York City girl was caught by a Good Samaritan, court documents say. Like I said, bad situation, but listen to the story. A Good Samaritan rescued a 5-year-old girl who was allegedly kidnapped and sexually assaulted by an elderly man her mother left her with in Queens on Tuesday, according to new court documents. The eagle-eyed witness, spotted the suspect, identified as 75-year-old Franz Villa with the child inside the 74th Street Roosevelt Avenue station, and leaped into action. The strap hanger recognized the pair from a citywide alert about the missing girl, who was kidnapped after her mother allowed Villa to watch her daughter when she ran into him at a grocery store in Jackson Heights. She followed the pair and then snatched the young girl away from the creep before screaming to nearby police for assistance, according to criminal complaint against Villa. Now, I bring up this story not to focus on the negative, but just kind of remind myself, if nothing else, and remind everybody out there. Say what you want to about Americans, and say what you want to about people in New York City, but there's still good and decent people in this country. And it's moments like that kind of remind you of it. So I think it's worth mentioning. I think it's definitely worth mentioning. And by the way, I hope that Mr. Villa is awarded a wood chipper. I'll just leave that right there. Anyway, it's about 12:15 on Saturday, and that's everything I've got for Front Porch Brunch. I want to thank everybody who's been here. Robert, Leah, Ramon, Vermont Cheddar, people who have stopped by. Maybe you haven't left a comment, but that's okay. We'll get you used to the idea of commenting on this show. For the folks on Rumble, I know you're over there, and I love every one of you. But like I say, don't be shy. We're nice people, so feel free to come back next Saturday. We'll give you a chance to drop some more comments. We'll get you out of this. We'll get you out of this shyness phase that you're going through on this show. But we'll be back next week with more videos. We'll be back next Saturday with chatting on the porch. Front Porch Brunch. I'm trying to see who might be available for Thursday night. If I don't have a guest, I'll probably do a live stream on my own. There's a story that came out on John Solomon's justthenews.com that I really want to get into. It has to do with tying everything together regarding Hunter Biden, Joe Biden, and actions that Joe Biden took when he was vice president. I've been itching to get into that story, but it takes a little bit of time, and you can't really do it in a 20-minute video. So that's what I've got coming up for next week. I want all of you guys out there to have fun this weekend. Remember, social media is nice, but there are more important things in life, like touching grass in however form you want to do that. But as always, you guys are extremely cool. I'm glad you've been here. Like I say, we'll be back next Saturday morning with another session of Front Porch Brunch. But in the meanwhile, be safe, have fun this weekend, and remember the words of that great American philosopher, Tom T. Hall, when he said, "It's faster horses, younger lovers, older whiskey, and more money." We'll see you later.